Carlos Nelson with Cascade Sports, and tonight we've got a special guest, Mr. Norman Tate, triple jumper, long jumper, hurdler, past
Winner.
past Olympian, 1968. Him and another one of my summer teammates of the New York Pioneer Club, which is the name is the club that the famous black track club in the summertime. I was fortunate to be able to run on that team with Coach now it's Coach Tate back in the '60s when I was in high school. Welcome to the show, Norman.
Thanks, Carlos. Thanks for having me.
What we want to talk about is your affiliation with Ralph Boston and the other long jumper that just passed away. And I want you to the floor is yours right now to reminisce and give them their propers.
Okay, thanks, Carlos. Well, I'll start with the beginning with Ralph. To show you what kind of person Ralph Boston was, I met Ralph in 1963 at the National AU Championships in St. Louis. And I was in college, sophomore in college, young, still learning the event. And, Ralph had already won, gold medal in the 60 Olympics. And he introduced himself to me. And I knew who he was, and in my mind, like, why does he want to meet me? Ralph said, Norm, he said, I've seen you jump on, several different occasions, and he said, you can be a great long jumper if you focus on that event. He said, I know you do multiple events, but if you want to be a great long jumper, you have to focus on that event in particular. He said, the running is going to help you, but triple jumping and doing all other things you do is going to take away from you becoming, a really great long jumper. And after that talk, I didn't change at that point in time because I was in college, and in college you basically have to do multiple events, for the team. But the first thing that came to my mind was this was somebody that I was competing against. But he took the time out to, give me some pointers on how to even be better. And most athletes don't do that. Most athletes that you compete against, they don't go around, giving pointers to their competition and stuff, And so from that time on, Ralph and I developed a really great relationship. We were super friends. And every time I would see Ralph until he stopped competing, he was always, looking at what I was doing, telling me, hey, look here, you didn't, do your hits correctly. He was always helping me to be better, although I was competing against him. And the funniest thing, the last time I competed against Ralph was his last track meet. The last time I competed against Ralph was sort of, sad moment for me. It was the Martin Luther King Games. The first Martin Luther King invitational track meet was held at Villanova in 1969. And it was the year after Martin Luther King had been assassinated. And there was 4 of us in the competition that everyone was looking at. It was Ralph, Bob Beamon, who you know, and Charlie Mays, who you remember, and myself. I won that long jump. And Beamon was second, Charlie Mays was third, and Ralph finished fourth. And couple of weeks after that, Jet magazine came out, and they had a picture of the centerfold when we was at the meet on the podium, and it was myself, Bob Beamon, and Charlie, and Martin Luther King III was doing a Black Power handshake with me before he presented the medal. And the article under that said Ralph Boston announced his retirement from the sport. So that was Ralph's last track meet that he competed in. It was Martin Luther King Games. It was in May 1969. And I have a picture of with Beeman and Charlie Mays and Martin Luther King third on the podium. But under that also is the article. So I kept the whole page, and it was when Ralph, announced his official retirement from the sport. And it's made me feel sad because I had competed against him, for 6 years, and he was the one that taught me to be a better long jumper. And basically, him not placing in the top 3 in that meet, he I guess it came to his mind that it was time for him to leave the sport. And the next year, he actually started commentating for CBS. So it was a happy moment, but it was a sad moment because, to me, even though Bob held the world record, and then Mike Powell has it now, Ralph was the greatest long jumper over a period of time than any of the jumpers we've ever had. People don't know some of the stats, but Ralph jumped 27 feet 26 times in his career. No other long jumper has done that.
How
Bob
is that? I'm the cutoff king. How you analyze that sport, and because you got the world record, that might be the furthest you've ever jumped in your life.
Yep.
And you never even approached that again. How important is that when you measure these athletic performances?
Okay, to me, greatness in an individual event in track is the longevity and the consistency. What Ralph's feat was in the long jump, jumping 27 feet 26 times, it was like Edwin Moses winning 49 straight races. And although Edwin doesn't hold the world record anymore, everyone will tell you that Edwin Moses was the greatest 400 hurdler ever and stuff. And so sometimes being the world record holder or having the furthest jump, if you haven't done it, consistently over a period of time, that doesn't, the analysts in the sport don't consider you to be the greatest. You was the best at one time, but not the greatest over a period of time.
All
and
right, Ralph, because you still coach, and you're still involved with young athletes, I want to say to our audience, all that took place in '69. I was just a senior in high school, and as Norman said that Ralph gave him tips, that's where my relationship came in with Norman, because he practiced with our high school team at the Armory in New York, and I couldn't break 50 in the quarter. And Norm, as Ralph gave him some pointers, Norman gave me some pointers that took me to another level. And it wasn't called the 400 meters then; it was the 440-yard dash. And I wanted to let my audience know.
Well, I'll say that the reason that you can tell that story, Carlos, is because of an individual like Ralph doing that for me. I've always been, and like after I stopped competing, I ran the New York City PAL, youth track and field program for about 5 years, where we ran the meets for the different precincts, the youth meets. My first job out of college, and I was still competing, I was a counselor at a Job Corps Center. So I've always been involved with youth in some, manner. And even now, I coach at a Division III college here in South Jersey. So I've always been about passing on what I learned from Dr. Walker.
Talk about Dr. Walker real quick.
Okay. Dr. Walker was my college coach. This was an individual that recruited me sight unseen based on a friend of his, a word. And he told Doc, he said, Doc Walker, he said, if you don't bring this kid down to North Carolina, so you're gonna lose out on a good one. I was an individual that didn't win a state championship in high school, got hurt my senior year, and colleges that was recruiting me backed off. I tore a quad muscle my senior year. Dr. Walker, based on a friend of his that was a coach in Jersey at Plainfield High School, Marshall Brown, called Dr. Walker and said, listen, this kid has so much potential, you wouldn't realize it. Dr. Walker called me up on the telephone and said, how would you like to come to North Carolina College?
North Carolina Central.
That's right. And at that point, I was ready to go anywhere because my mom had said, well, you're either going to college or you're going in this army. And at that time, it was Vietnam. Was you go in the army, then you was going to Vietnam. So I got on Trailway bus from Newark, went down to Durham. Coach met me at the bus station. That was the first time he had ever laid eyes on me. And from that point on, I became, well, in his book, Dr. Walker's autobiography, he said I was the greatest athlete that he had ever coached.
Tell the audience what Dr. Walker's credentials were.
It was, okay. Doc, when I went to NCC, Doc was teaching phys ed, and he was a track coach. Prior to that, when he came to Central in 1945, Kansas City famous individual, Johnny B. McClendon, had recruited Doc from Prairie View to come to Central in 1945 to be his assistant coach in basketball and be the assistant coach in football. At that point in time, Doc started a track team to keep the basketball and football players in shape. He went on to become probably the greatest Black coach, track coach in that we've ever had.
U.S. history.
I got out of school. You know, he had some other super teams after us, Larry Black, you know, Uku and Sang and all of them, Charles Foster.
Well, you got to remember that Jerry Monroe, who was on the team.
That's right, Jerry Monroe.
Ran 47-7 in high school back in the day, in the 60s. And Kevin was running 148 in the half mile.
That's right.
Doc Walker took the two top athletes from Taft High School down to North Carolina.
Down to North Carolina Central.
Then Virginia State. I went to Virginia State, and Virginia State took the other half of the mile relay.
Right. And then Doc, when he stopped coaching, became the chancellor at the university.
I didn't know that.
Yeah. He was the chancellor at the university for 3 years.
But he picked out so many Olympians. That's
right. 7 Olympians. And at present, all of them have passed except for Edwin Roberts and myself.
All right, let's get on to the other gentleman that just passed away.
Okay. Herb Douglas. Herb, and it's so funny that two good friends of mine, both long jumpers, both individuals that mentored me, died the same week, and it was the same week as pin relays. Pin relays, Herb died on Monday, Ralph died on Tuesday.
Give up on who Herb was.
Herb was medaled in the 1948 Olympics, okay? And I was 6 years old. And I'm 81 now. Herb basically mentored all of the young Black athletes when they reached that national level, like John and Tommy and myself. He was like a mentor to us. Always came to the national championship, knew everyone by name. He was a good friend of Doc's. Every year, pin relay, they'd be sitting along the fence with their gold hats. Those are the big wheels in pin relays, the ones that wear the gold hats.
Hey, let our audience know about pin relays was our pinnacle on the East Coast.
It was probably, I'd say, because the percentage of making the Olympic team is very small. I'd probably say that 95 of the athletes that compete, that's high school, college, open, 95% of them pin relays with their Olympic games. That's how major and big pin relays was.
Try to mimic that with the Drake and with the Kansas relays.
Relays is not the same.
They couldn't compare to the pin relays.
In fact, one year, the only year that I have never been to pin relays was 1969. Pin relay weekend. I went to Mount Sac because they used to be the same weekend. I wish I had never gone because of the difference in the meet. They had good performance at Mount Sac, but it was just pin relays is a spectacle. It's a carnival. That's what it is. They call it the pin relay carnival. The pin relay carnival, and that's just what it is. And now it's become international because the Jamaicans come. There was teams this year from Jamaica, the Bahamas, Trinidad and Tobago.
Won high school 1-2. I think
that's right. Yeah.
I just put it.
But that's the type of meet the pin relays is. It's basically an Olympic Games for the majority of athletes that compete there. And I've been fortunate. I was outstanding athlete at pin relays in 1964. I've won 13 pin relay watches. I'm in the Pin Relay Hall of Fame, Wall of Fame as an individual, and our 4x2 relay team was inducted into the Pin Relay Wall of Fame in 2015. But and I officiate. In fact, I officiated this past weekend. There's my this year's hat, the official Pin Relay officials hat right there.
Joe, yeah, put it in front of the camera again. Turn it around. No, yeah. So,
wait, let me. Oh, let me see. I'm trying to. Okay.
There we go.
Right
there we go. All right.
Yeah. That's official. This is the hat that all officials wear at pin relays. And then they have different grades. They have the red hat is the basic officials, and I'm not an official actually. I'm on the ceremonies committee. And I help give out awards, walk around, and just like a pin relay, person and stuff,
Of you with a big round plaque at
pin relay.
Do we call that?
I have a smaller version of it that they gave me this year as a memento.
But I can insert that into what we're.
Yeah, I'm gonna pull it out. It's still wrapped. I just they gave me this as a memento for my service to the pin relays.
Hey, Norm.
This is the smaller version. This is the smaller version of what the school wins a big, large one.
Boy, yeah, because that was a large thing. Boy,
it's huge.
That's not small there, bro.
Yeah, it's large.
What's your version? Your version is small and my version too. That's large.
Yeah, but this is small. But they call this the wheel. And all the schools come there with the thought in mind they want to win a wheel for their school. And like I said, the one that the school gets is huge. This is a medium-sized one that they give various individuals every year. They award various individuals that have, done service to the meet. They give them a replica. But I have two on my stand, smaller ones. High school teams out in Hempstead. I coached in Hempstead for 5 years, and they won 2. My girls' team out there, they won 2. And since the school didn't want to put them up in the showcase, the kids gave them to me, and I call them the bookends.
Well, hold on a minute. I want to ask you this: Do you feel? I feel coaching and the things that you've done with your life for real, is a thankless job. You get some, some accolades, but don't nobody know what it's like to go to practice every damn day.
I know you do. I do.
And you, the coach, Mr. Dickerson, and I don't know whether you remember Eddie Ford. And how they trained our team and all the extra stuff, and you as the coach is not getting paid for all of that.
Yeah. Oh no.
And then I don't know how it is now, but back then we didn't have a pot to piss in or when to throw it out. Coach might have to give you car fare.
That's right. There's some money in the sport now. For our top flight athletes, they win prize money and stuff. Tell you a little story. The shoe companies, because we couldn't do advertising like these guys do it. Anything you did where money was involved, in you were suspended because they deemed you a professional. Yeah. So I remember getting shoes from Puma. They would send me shoes in the mail, and there'd be money in the shoes, and you couldn't tell anybody about it because you got in trouble, But and when I say money,
kids don't know there was really only two shoe companies
that's right.
That you wore, Adidas or Puma.
Puma.
And I think
was no Nike, no New Balance. Yeah, there was no Nike, no New Balance, no Under Armour. Yeah. It was two shoe companies.
You were running US Kids or Converse.
Hey, that's right. You remember the Converse, them Converse, and the
indoor they had those Spaldings.
That's what I say, the Spaldings, man. Yeah. But they were good times. I think because I coach, I still go to the meets. I've been coaching on 5 national teams. These kids today take it for granted. And the one thing that always bothers me is that they don't remember people's names from the past. Like these kids, I said today at practice, I said, 2 of my good friends passed away this week. And one was Olympic champion, one was the bronze medalist in the long jump in 1948. I named Herb Douglas and Ralph Boston. Now these kids run track, for me. They didn't have a clue as to who I was talking about. So I had to give them a little history lesson right then.
Track and field.
Mm-hmm.
In basketball, you ask them, they don't know.
I know.
Johnny Hawkins and some of the people that, really made the NBA.
That's right.
Yeah, because they wasn't playing. They had Bob Cousy shooting a set shot.
Yeah. But they don't know. And every chance I get with the kids I coach, I'm constantly, giving them history lessons. And I tell them, I said, you want to be better in your event, then find out who was in your event from the past, okay? Because these kids think they're the greatest thing that ever stepped on a track.
Hey, they burn up on them cinder tracks that we ran on.
Yeah, but that's their attitude. They think that they're the first people to ever run track, And I tell them, I said, hey, the first Olympics were 86. Okay, so people have been running track for a long time. So you're not the first person to ever do this. And but it's a constant teaching thing. But I try to always throw out the names of the people that meant a lot to me. Like a Herb Douglas. Herb said when we got in nationals in Sacramento, and this was 2004. And Nike had a hospitality suite for all of the old timers. And Herb was there. And they honored the Tiger Bells that year in Sacramento, and they had come out with these. Yeah, they had come out with these stamps. The state of California had issued these stamps that had the Tiger Bells, different Tiger Bells pictures on it. And Herb was in the hospitality suite, and the Tiger Bells they're older. They're, some of them are older than me. And Carlos and I, we were walking down the street. It was about 12 o'clock at night. Here comes Herb Now this is 2004, so that was what 19 years ago. So Herb was 101 when he died. So you subtract 19 from that. So he had to be in his 70s. Herb is walking down the street with 5 of the Tiger Bells. Carlos, wait, yeah, at 12 o'clock, right? Carlos and I asked him, said, Herb, where you going? You know, it's past your bedtime, man. Herb said, I got to escort the ladies back to their hotel. I can't let nothing happen to him. Now, he was in his 70s.
Like you, Muhammad Ali.
I know, right? Carlos said, Herb, you walking them and protecting them, who's going to protect you? You know, but that's the kind of person he was, you know, and he was just a great guy. Herb told me one day, he said, Norm, I said, and I always call him Mr. Douglas until he made me stop. He said, call me Herb. You make me feel older than I am. So I said, Herb. So he said, you know, Norm, he said, you know, you made Dr. Walker famous because Dr. Walker is the boy. He said, you know, you made Doc famous. I said, what are you talking about? He said, well, you're the first one that where he got national attention. I said, oh, man. But he was a jokester. At his 95th birthday, Herb's 95th birthday, he went to the University of Pittsburgh. The college had a birthday party for him. At 95, Herb was on the stage. He said, put the music on it. He started dancing on the stage, 95 years old. That's the kind of energy as I knew him. And not until this past year did you not see him out, you know, going to public events and stuff. He was just like 98 years old, he had more energy than a whole lot of people my age and stuff, you know. But he was an energetic individual. And I tell you something else about Herb. Herb was the one that started the Jesse Owens Award banquet. He was the director, you know, the head of that. He worked for Seagram's for all those years. He got Seagram to sponsor that event. And I went to all of the ones that they had. It was at the Waldorf Astoria in New York, and they honored not just athletes, but George Bush's father, the older Bush. He got the award of the year 1 year. The African guy that was the head of the president of the UN, he got the honor 1 year. He not only did he give the Athlete of the Year award to who they considered voted the best athlete, he gave an annual award to you know, some of the, you know, big wheels in the country and in the world.
That's doing other things. In closing, I want to ask you, what advice would you give to the athletes that are coming up in closing, and not just track and field, but in general?
Okay, in general, they want to do in life. Doc Walker, we were riding to one of the meets, and I'm still awake. We're in the station wagon. 9 of us packed in the station wagon like sardines, and I'm still up. Coach is driving. We're going on our way to New York to run in New York at the New York AC meet. And Coach said, Norm, he said, who's the best athlete on the field? And, you know, I'm a little dummy, you know. I said, I thought he was talking about my event. And it's so funny because I said Ralph Boston. So he said, wrong answer. So then I said, well, he must want me to say myself, right? So I said, Norm Tate. He said, wrong answer. Now I am confused. I'm sitting there, you know, I'm sitting in the front seat, and I'm like, well, what is he talking about? He said, Norm, he said, the best athlete on the field is always the best prepared one. And I took that for everything that I've ever done, Carlos. And I tell the kids that you want to be a great doctor, you got to prepare yourself. You want to be a great lawyer, you got to prepare. The best person doing the job in any field, any area in life the best prepared individual. And I never forgot that when he said, he was referring, to track at the time, but when you look at it, it's like, hey, well, whatever you do, you want to be good at it, you got to be prepared. You got to prepare yourself to do it to the best of your ability. And I tell all of the young kids that I confront, the college kids, the high school kids I talk to, prepare. You're in the classroom. Don't be sitting there sleeping, don't know what the teacher's saying. You got to be prepared, not just to be an athlete, you got to be prepared to be anything in life that you're going to do. You got to be prepared. And then the other thing, and I took this from somebody, and now I hear it all the time. I used to tell the kids, I asked the kids, the first question, I did a clinic out of University of California with Roger Kingdom, and I'm talking to this group, and I said, what is the main thing? And everybody's sitting there, they're trying to figure out, And so I said, the main thing, no, I said, keep the main thing the main thing. And they looking at me, what kind of stupid phrase is that? And I said, whatever you're doing, and I get on some of my kids sometimes and I throw it at them. They'll come out there, they got the cell phones, they listen to cell phones, or they got headphones, or they come late. And I said, the main thing for you right now is that you be here on time and practice so you can get your work in and be better than what you are. When you walk out of this gate and you go through your class, that's the main thing then, okay? And so whatever you're doing at any given point in time, during the day, during the week, whatever you're doing at that particular, that's the main thing. Your mind shouldn't be focused. I tell them, I say, you come to practice, you got your girlfriend on the phone, you're not thinking about track, or you sitting in the classroom and you talking to the guy next to you or the girl next to you, or you sleeping. You don't know what, you're not learning anything. The main thing is that you pay attention into whatever's going on at that particular time.
All right.
And those are the two things that I tell kids, be prepared and always think about what's the main thing, when you're doing something.
All right. Well, I think that's appropriate to end this on. And as we always say here at Cascade Sports, when you invest in your community, you're really just investing in yourself. Good night.
This program is brought to you by the City of Fountains Coaches Association.